Welcome, guys, back to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine, and today we are welcomed by fellow podcast host Adam from Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. How we doing, man?
I am great. It's always mad when I sort of collaborate with other people from America. I've done it a few times before with a couple of the other podcasters, but it's so good to get people on and collaborating. And I've just got back from a show this evening. It's late evening over here in the UK now, so yeah, really good to be on, and I can't wait to have a chat with you, Justin.
Before we dive into all the stuff we're going to get into, I'm sure we're going to get down some rabbit holes. Would you like to shout out your social medias, upcoming podcasts? Just let the fans know where they can check out Hitting the Turnbuckle.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, and then Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast on TikTok, Instagram. We do 7 to 10 shows a week on YouTube, so we review a lot of the wrestling. We do some interviews. Coming up, I've got a lot of NWA stuff coming up because we work with them, but wrestlers are TBC at the minute. Listen, when we get them and they're all confirmed, you will see it posted on our platforms. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to plug the socials.
So just real quick, you mentioned doing the work with the NWA, kind of collaborating with some of the stars of the NWA. I've been fortunate in my year of podcasting so far. I've done work with NWA Exodus. Uh,
Yes.
the guys behind the scenes, EC3, Noah, Rex, all great guys over at NWA Exodus. What's your experience been like working with those guys and some of the other guys within the broader NWA banner?
You know, funny you should mention Exodus because we covered. I know they just had Exodus show recently last weekend. We're just about to review that this week. I watched The Throne about 6 weeks ago. Now, obviously, you were there. I mean, there you go, right? You were there in the flesh. We were there on the YouTube channel. So part of the reason we started doing Exodus was because my colleague Fiona. So Fiona, I can't say NWA about her. So just a quick one on Fiona. So she's over here on the Pro Wrestling Scotland scene. So she's a ring announcer, time bell keeper, whatever you want over there. She also does, if any of you from the UK are familiar with Inside the Ropes, where they bring wrestlers over there like Bret Hart, Edge, big name, Jim Cornette, Jim Ross. So she works as part of that team. But she introduced me to the NWA when this podcast started 3 years ago now. So she was a big part of it. She used to post pictures on X or it was Twitter then, of a cup of tea and NWA power. And I was like, what is this? Like, I'd never, NWA kind of existed, but I didn't proper weekly show. She was like, oh, it's NWA. And me, stupidly, I was like, oh, it's like the 80s, right? You're going back to watch the old stuff. She was like, no, it's actually legit. This is a weekly show. We had her on a guest as a podcast. And then I said, actually, there might be a market for this because, yes, everyone watches WWE, everyone watches AEW, everyone TNA and all that stuff. But I feel as if NWA was like a niche opportunity there where we just hadn't know. I think, don't get me wrong, Alliance Blog, people like that do it. And obviously yourself's been there. And I was like, great, let's do it. So we done that. And obviously then the territory started coming in. So we played a part of the side and Watch the Throne was one of the first ones we watched. We had messages from the EC3s. We've had EC3 on twice, but this was as a separate thing. And we had messages from everybody that was pretty much wrestled on that show to say a big thank you. Pretty Boy Smooth's a good friend of ours and people like that. From NWA, they have been nothing but amazing. And it's quite weird, like TNA as well. And I'm sure we'll touch on that. We're part of UK media for TNA. So we will get roster. We was talking before we went on air and you had a team from TNA that I really want. Sure, we'll talk about. But I find it really weird because the two, and I don't like to say smaller companies because I feel as if it's doing them justice, but you probably understand me. They seem to be so much more accommodating and more like willing to give small a chance. Whereas, WWE and AEW, of course, and you understand it, right? Bigger press associations, more people, they're gonna push it that way. And I understand it. I totally get it. But sometimes my answer to that is unless you give someone an opportunity, you're never gonna know where it can take them and B you. And then as a quick side note, and I'm I'm rambling on here. We got it. We had AEW media credentials for Forbidden Door over here in the UK, and it blew me away. We got a seat upgrade. We were like hard cam side right near the front. We went backstage at the end. We done that whole press conference thing that they do, and that was so incredible. But to answer your question that I've really answered in a long way, but into a short answer is I find NWA and TNA particularly just incredible to deal with.
We'll start with NWA.
Yep.
NWA, I want to say they were probably the first company that I've done a broader like sponsorship with or actively worked with. And
Yep.
the way that they just invited me in, at least, and like I traveled from Chicago to Cleveland. It's about a 7-hour drive. They accommodated me with interviews and all the other stuff that goes into working with a company. I'm not gonna throw it all out on the air just because
No.
you know how it goes, but all the things that they do to accommodate you is crazy, especially at that level. Like, because obviously you expect somewhere like an AEW or WWE, you get credentials to maybe get interviews or go backstage or do the media, but for somewhere at the level of NWA or a TNA to go and especially Exodus. I'll start with Exodus just because it's a branch of the NWA for them who's weren't running a smaller venue to go and give you their time, and you know they're losing money on tickets by giving you tickets, and they're losing money on just sometimes these guys need paid for interviews, and they're giving you these interviews for free and their time. Like those things I think matter a lot, and I don't see a lot of other bigger companies accommodating in those ways that the smaller companies are, and it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes you would want as many eyes on the product as you can, no matter how big you are, right? Because every podcast has its audience. So
Yes.
even if I'm not being funny, even if WWE messaged me and said, we've got Axel Tozawa, I know it sounds harsh on him when I say that, but you understand the levels within the WWE. They're not going to throw out a CM Punk to you. Do you know what I mean? I get that. And I understand that. But Exodus has been, I mean, it was great for us. We done like a whole week or two before Watch the Throne where we were bringing on, like we had Gannon Jones Jr., we had J Rock, Pretty Boy Smooth, Pastor CeeLo. We had Carson Drake below before that, but the whole we brought on as many as we could to plug the show. And what I found also really surprising was I had I woke up the next morning and the Instagram for the Turnbuckle just blew up overnight. It was crazy after us reviewing Watch the Throne. And you got a message. I got a message. It was from EC3, and when you're you just think, oh, it's just him sharing something. It's not It was actually a really nice message from him saying you gave us a platform in a time that we really need it and thanking us. And that sort of personal touch from people like Exodus Pro, listen, it just means that they've watched it for me. And that meant more to me and kind of vindicated what we've done more than pretty much any other podcast that we've done. And it just was so amazing to hear that from him. And Aaron Stevens said the same thing pretty much. And I really took that as a vindication for what we're doing is good. And it actually does make a difference.
Yes. It's rare I feel like, especially podcasters at our level, to get that air of validation or recognition, because I mean, there's a lot of times, and I love interviewing the independent talent, helping independent guys and girls get their names out there is my bread and butter. I love it so much, but there's not a lot of it's rare you get somebody come to you and say, hey, this made a world of difference. It happens, but it's very rare and few and far between. And to have those moments from companies or people like EC3 come to you and say, hey, you did your part and thank you, it's one of the most insane and surreal feelings I like to get in this space, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it blew me away to have that. You don't expect it. Like I said, I just thought it was going to be a share or,
Yep.
having to say that. He commented on the YouTube video that the review that we put out there. There's a comment from him on the page. He commented me personally. As I said, Aaron Stevens. doing the same thing. NWA shout us out quite a bit, as a broader spectrum. We're hoping we want to start getting into some of the other territories. We done NWA New Mexico, Manny Lemons, before he beat Brian Idol for the Route 66 championship, I think it was. We had him on 2 days before that. We've done the Page Sisters and things like that as part of the NWA. We haven't done the Crossfire part yet, which is something that I want to get into. But just to get validation from them guys and just a thanks. We don't expect it, and we don't put it out there for that. But to get it back is just an incredible feeling, because they do watch it. We've had things from NWA when they've watched our stuff, like responses to stuff that we've said, like Daisy Kill, prime example. Daisy Kill. We were talking on the podcast, and before we had him on, we obviously review Power every week, and Fiona was like, yeah, I'm not quite sold on Daisy Kill and Talos as a team. 4 weeks later, we had Daisy Kill on the show, and he's like, yeah, I know you don't rate us yet. And we're like, uh-oh.
I love it.
It was great. It really was great. But it just means a lot to us that they're watching it as well.
And that's something that I've found so fun about doing this is, like, I enjoy getting viewers from fans. That's obviously fun. But, like, hearing the response from the boys and girls in the locker room is my favorite thing. Because, like, I know here in Chicago, I'm not sure how it is in the UK, but usually, like, before and after a show, you get to interact with them, especially after the shows. Yeah. And to be able to have a guy or a girl come up to you and say, hey, just so you know, I really enjoyed our interaction. I had these people come to me and say this, and whatever. It's like, okay, like, you guys enjoyed it. And then for them, I've had them go out of their way and be like, well, you know, you had me on. I really enjoyed it. This person watched it. Go message them and get them on. And, like, just seeing how, like, us being able to share their stories and to share their experiences, it, like, almost self-networks itself to just be able to continue to go along. Have you had that same experience?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I always say this, like, I always feel like wrestlers will probably roll their eyes when they see us reaching out for interviews and stuff like that. There's so many podcasts out there, and there is. Look, listen, they say it's a niche.
Thousands.
That's crazy, right? And more wrestlers are doing it now as well, which this may sound controversial, but I kind of think it hampers us a little bit. Just because if you're going to get an interview, maybe from the WWE or something like that, they're going to push it to the people that perhaps work for them that are doing it more than us, right? That's what I'm trying to get at by that. But yeah, I mean, like, the NWA guys have been ones like that have reached, and we got TNA. I don't know if it was an accidental thing, but there's a podcast over here, or a wrestling channel over here called Ministry of Wrestling, and they recommended us to the person that was giving them the TNA interviews initially. Now, I know we was talking NWA and we're going to TNA, but and then I got the message from TNA like, oh, would you like to interview? So I can't remember who the Decay. There you go. That was the first one, Decay, and it went from there. But it was literally from us meeting the Ministry of Wrestling at a show for Ignite Wrestling, which we work very closely with, and then we had the funny shout because we were rival podcasters. We had this big shout of someone shouted out War Games because it was around September, October, and obviously War Games was coming up at Survivor. It was a funny thing, but that's how. And they used to see us post sort of every day when we was bringing out. As I said, we dropped 7 to 10 podcasts a week, so they were seeing all of that and going, "Geez, like, they're doing a lot of work here." They recommended us, I think, to TNA, and that's how that come along. So yes, surreal, but also again. So amazing that they've actually said, hey, go and check these guys out. These would be great to interview your talent. And from there, it's been a massive, great working relationship with TNA.
Yeah, working with TNA is kind of surreal in itself. I've been able, I think I've done four or five interviews with TNA talent now, including Mike Santana and AJ Francis, the Hardys. I feel like I'm missing one, and Frankie Kazarian. I had Kazarian on. Exactly. And those guys over there it's so cool to see what they're doing now to revitalize the TNA brand. And you spoke about, kind of starting the working relationship. It's crazy for me because I don't even know how it happened. Like, all of a sudden I look in my emails and I'm getting interview opportunities, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't even, I didn't sign up. Like, I don't know where this came from or how they got my email, or did I send something out and I don't remember? Like, but the relationship is so cool and they work with you. I've noticed some of the guys behind the scenes, um, they work with you so well. I would shout them out, but I don't know if they want to be shouted out. Some are
Yeah.
not, but you know how it is. But those guys, the team and the group that they got there are what they're doing for TNA and what they're doing for wrestling in 2025. I'm so excited to see where they go. And I'm so excited to see guys like us getting that opportunity to share the passion for wrestling that TNA, I feel like, has kind of reignited at this level of wrestling, because I feel like there's for a couple years it was WWE, AEW, and then there was indies, and then there was just like MLW, TNA, NWA, all kind of floated in between, and
Yeah.
there's always the argument who's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever. But like it just felt like, I don't want to say it was stale, but it, like, for lack of better words, it was kind of stale. And I feel like they've picked the ball up, and now it's made everybody do better. Because like we talked about NWA, I feel like is now fighting for that spot. MLW fighting for that spot, and TNA is right there. I feel like at the front of it, saying, guys, you gotta, if you're gonna climb with us, you better get up and come climb, because if not, we're gonna see where we're going with this ball. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And as a TNA, I mean, I was a big TNA fan. When we could start to get it over here in the UK, we obviously missed somewhat of the earlier years. But when we got it, I can't remember the year that we got it, but I remember when we did get it. And that TNA had a great partnership over here in the UK. They would come over every year. Funnily enough, a lot of the last times that I saw some of my podcast co-hosts were at a TNA show when Hogan and Bischoff were there. They brought the lockdown cage in. And and then obviously it dropped. I mean, it was on like Pop TV, I think, over in America at some point. It was like really,
Pop and Discover,
yeah,
and just some weird like Destination America, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. So we lost it over here, so we couldn't see it. So again, it was scrolling through online, and then pretty much really when our podcast started, but around that time, maybe the year previous, it just started to pick up, and we was like, we need to start watching it, we need to start reviewing it. And it's been like, and I know it sounds like a really cringe analogy, but it feels like we've been on that ride with them the climb has started. And then obviously, as you said, to get that opportunity then, and well, we're not going to mention who the people that work behind the scenes. I've got, as you say, when you see that message, or I get a WhatsApp message from my guy and he says, can you, I always say, it's funny, I always say, like, never ask me if I can, just tell me who and the time,
where, what time, I'll be
make
there.
it work. I'll make it work. But it is crazy. It is crazy to have that option. And as you say, when you see that email or when you have that interaction, you're like, man, this is like incredible. But I always go back to, it's about the work that you put in, and you're not going to get where, if you want those interviews, you're not going to get it if you don't put the work in. You've put the work in. We've put the work in here. Others have put the work in, and we're getting it. But yeah, I feel like right now is really exciting from a wrestling fan. If I'm being totally transparent, I'm starting to be a bit disillusioned with the WWE, but that's more to do with ticket pricing than anything else. But everywhere else, I'm really, as a wrestling fan, it's great right now.
It's funny because when I started this podcast, there was a lot of people that don't understand wrestling that were like, why, out of all the things you pick wrestling, and they're like, it's not popular. And I'm like, guys, if you want me to be honest with you, wrestling right now, I'm 25 years old. Wrestling is as popular now as it's been my entire life, if not more. And I've heard like my dad and other people compare it to the Attitude Era. Like, hey, it might be as hot as it's ever been. And it's hard to tell because we're on streaming services. We're online. It's all social media. Like, ratings might not be your 5s, 10s, or whatever, but on social media, you're getting hundreds of millions of views. So like, why isn't it a good time to be a part of this of this genre? Have you found that like right now has been a good time to get in and create content for professional wrestling?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to have been able to do this because so the Attitude Era, I think I was like, what was it, 90? Started in 96. So I'd have been like 12. So I'm a bit older than you, man. I'm like 41,
Just a little bit.
Just a little, yeah, thanks. Yeah, just a little bit. I'm 41, but I would have loved to have been able to create content like this back then. I see, like, and I had this chat with Wheezy Blonde, the streamer, a couple of weeks ago, and I said, like, I would have loved to have seen reaction shows back then, because as long as, like, you could have what you do now, but if you took away the fact that you could find spoilers, right? Mm-hmm. So Jericho's debut in a WWE, the very first one that he done, I would have loved to have done a whole reaction on that, as in 100%. Like watching it live, right? But yeah, in terms of creating content right now, and I think like you hit the nail on the head there. Ratings do matter if you're a tribalistic fan that just wants to have an opportunity of degrading the other side, so to speak. But without, like, the YouTubes now, and you've seen it, right? You get a big return on WWE or AEW, and overnight it does 20 million views. Like, just for a return, right? I think The Rock come back like 2 years ago. He's like 75 million views in 24 hours, right? Like, that shows you what wrestling is all about right now.
And I think it's one of those where we're just now, at least I feel like in my lifetime, it's just now at the point where you can take a non-wrestling fan and you can say, hey, I know you guys for X amount of years have dogged on this product, but if there's ever a time to give it a try, if there's ever a time to dip your toe in the water, it's right now, because there's something for everybody. Whether it's WWE and you're wanting a more story-driven, like, theater, it's there. You want AEW, it's hardcore, like, audience. I don't want to say hardcore wrestling, but it's for a hardcore audience. They'll love it. And then you also have NWA. If you want to show them, like, NWA now, it's pretty much, I always compare it to, it's pretty much the NWA of the 80s, just with new characters. You got new guys, girls. It's the same principle. The principles are there. It's just, it's a new cast. It's like they recasted Friends and they put it, now it's in today. You know what I mean? And then TNA is as hot as it's ever. It's like, it's almost, I feel like, catching that fire of what it looked like in 2007 when everybody was super hot about TNA the first time. I feel like we're there again. So, like, and there's something for everybody. And I think it goes to show, I mean, even just going to, like, indie events. For instance, my fiance hates wrestling. She doesn't understand why I watch wrestling. She doesn't understand why I make content for wrestling. But I took her to Exodus, and she'd never been to a wrestling show before. I kind of roped her into it because my brother was graduating. But I was like, you go to the graduation. On the way home, we got to stop at this show. And I made fun of it the whole time, but she enjoyed it. And she couldn't take her eyes off of it. She couldn't stop commenting on it. She loved to hate on Carson Drake and his dance, and it was just the best thing ever. So, like, I think that just shows somebody who hates wrestling. Like, she literally looked at me like, I hate this thing because it takes up all your time. You're so, like, I'm so full of it all the time. She can't stand it. But for her to sit down for almost 3 hours and watch it and enjoy it, yeah, it's time for non-wrestling fans to get a peek.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head when you said the word variety. I mean, that's what it is, right? There's something for everything. There's something for everyone. You mentioned WWE. If you want the storyline stuff, if you want, the stuff where they're bringing in people from other industries as well, that's where you are. You've made a point there, AEW. They called it for the sickos, right? Well, there you go.
Yep.
Clues in the phrase there. We have people trying to get drowned, setting houses on fire, stapling your tongue with staples, wherever. There's your AEW. The NWA, and you've hit the nail on the head when you said it. It was like recasting. And what I love most about the NWA, and I say it every time I talk to a wrestler, other than the fact that the Carson Drake's got the most punchable face in wrestling, the other thing that I say is it's like when they hit a finish in NWA, it is the finish. There is no kickouts. There is no selling of moves. Like, when Damage hits you with a drop kick from BFT, that match is done. And that's what I love. And that's where NWA differentiates itself from everywhere else now. Because if you watch AEW, watch WWE, you have to hit 17 finishes before you get the free count. NWA, you hit one and it's done. And that's what I love about the NWA.
So just out of recent news, while we're talking about WWE and these companies, WWE just recently, there's a rumor or somewhere, I don't have the direct quote, but it seems like they're using AI to write stories, is what the headline says. I haven't read into it yet, but as a fellow podcast, how do you feel about a big company like that has a writing team using artificial intelligence to write our storylines that we're going to see on television?
Why don't they just bring in some podcasters to do it? Like
you said it best, man.
We've all got ideas. That's it. I mean, I don't know why. I get it. Don't get me wrong, I get it, but like, why don't you just give it? I mean, look, me and you sitting here right now, we've probably got ideas and stuff that we could take a wrestler and say, right, this is what we'd do with them. This are the matches we would have. We'd have our own ideas. Why don't you just do that? I mean, okay, I suppose it's another expense, right? You just got to just go on Chat GPT and you get like an hour free or whatever it is, and they can write a story. So I suppose, but they've got writers, which annoys me. And I don't even think they've got the right writers some of the time, because they're bringing in these Hollywood type of thing. Back in the Attitude Era, it was like Russo and Vince Russo we've had on the channel twice, and it's a fascinating conversation. He gets a lot of criticism, maybe justified. I'm not going to. That's down to an opinion. But you had Russo, you maybe had Cornette for a while, and you had Vince McMahon. And whatever happens is everything went through Vince McMahon. That is, but it took two or three of them, and they wrote the Attitude Era. And now you've got 30 writers, and they can't seem to write a coexistent weekly episodic television program. It's really, really weird. So using AI, I get it, but I just think that's, I don't know. I would question why they would use it when you've got, like I said, podcasters, streamers that may be able to, you could take an idea from what we say and put it over to the wrestlers in the WWE and create something. Although we'd take the credit, right? But it's like, at the end of the day, there's no difference from them doing that than it is them using AI.
Well, it's funny because I just started a big part of like the channel for us is we do our live streams, and I have my little brother and my dad do it, and I've been trying to we figure out ways to get them. I do the interviews, we do the live stream, trying to figure out ways to get them to be more interactive with the channel, because people like them. And so like my little brother, we call him Nasty Nate here on the podcast just for fun. He fantasy books some stuff. Like, why not? He's a kid that people want to know his opinion. Like, you can get opinions from anybody. And I just think like you got all these fans with an idea, opinions. You have all these former wrestlers with ideas and opinions, podcasters, ideas and opinions. I'm not like, I don't disapprove of AI. I don't like, sometimes it can be a tool, but using it to take out the creative element that is pretty much one of the most solid things about being a human is being able to be creative and have feelings. And you give that to something that's artificial, kind of feels wrong. Like I don't want to be super critical of WWE because I like the product and one day I'd like to work with them, but it almost feels lazy. Like, it almost feels like they took the easy way out and said, maybe we'll just have this do it instead, because what we can't, like, it's kind of like they said, we can't do it right. So maybe this will do it right. When you could just ask Justin and Adam and maybe we'd figure it out.
Have an idea about something that they could, and then they take that and amplify it to their level, right? That's what I'm trying to get. And you're right, it does feel lazy. It really. I see sometimes, and I'm not going to be too critical of the independent guys because I love them, but right, and them using ChatGPT for their promos. I've got something to say about so and so I'm going to write it. No, it's like, come on, surely you can do it. You can do that yourselves. You don't need an AI tool. I get it for posters and stuff like that. I can kind of understand it for that because it's just creating a bit of art. But if you can't be doing, come on, you must be able to do a promo. Like, that's what you learn during your training, right?
It's one of the classes. Yeah. My thing, you brought up posters. Like, there was a couple months ago, like when AI really started kicking off, I make all my like thumbnails and posts.
Yeah.
And I realized that I could make it, and then I could put it into a chat GPT and it could alter it a little bit. And so like I had all these cool comic book covers that I made the principle of the cover. I put it into chat GPT and it finalized it for me.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people come at me and be like, why are you doing that? That's lazy. You have this person, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and I think a lot of them were under the impression I was just having the AI make it. And once I broke down, hey, I make it, it just finishes it for me. Like there's little details that maybe I don't know how to do or I'm learning how to do that AI does it for me. And like I've had guys for certain companies that we've already talked to come to me and be like, hey, these are really good. Like, how'd you do it? And I'm explaining it, and they're like, that's smart. Like, and once again, using it as a tool, one thing, using it to do the job for you is just, it's lazy.
Yeah, definitely agree with that fully. It really is lazy.
We are on the back end of Wrestle Dream as we record this podcast. Have you got to look at any of the news or results or watch the show at all?
Yeah, I watched the show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was a bit I was a bit disappointed with the ending to Mox and Darby.
Yes.
I didn't mind Darby winning. I just felt like you've tried to set this guy on fire. You've tried to drown him and all the stuff that's happened in between, but he quits to a Scorpion Deathlock. And this is no disrespect to Sting or his move. But when you look at that whole match and you end it that way, the winner for me is fine. I had no issue with either of them winning, to be honest. It would have been fine either way. But I felt as if that was probably a bit. I like to quote Jim Cornette, and it's probably going to rile a few AEW fans up, but lazy booking a little bit maybe there. But all in all, I always love. Listen, one thing that AEW does, and I don't think any wrestling fan, or maybe some wrestling fans would say, their pay-per-views always deliver great action. I'm also looking forward to the Continental Classic that will be coming up really soon, because that is my favorite. That has actually been my favorite competition in wrestling, like tournament in wrestling right now is the C2 as we call it. I think it's great. But Wrestle Dream itself, thoroughly enjoyed it. The finish of that one, but the rest of it, awesome. Loved it.
I really enjoyed the turn for Samoa Joe. I didn't really see it coming, and seeing the ops and Samoa Joe turn on Hangman is interesting because I figured it'd be a one and done. Yeah, especially with the build. The build was kind of weak. We talked about it here on the live streams. Like, it just came out of nowhere. It kind of felt a little maybe lazy. I know we're throwing that word around a lot, but it just seems like they threw it together.
Yeah.
The match was excellent. I love Samoa Joe. I don't feel like he's lost. I know some people say he's lost a step. He's gotten older. I feel like Samoa Joe now is almost at his best form. It's just like we've watched him evolve over years and years and years. Same with Hangman. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm going to throw this out here. I'm a big CM Punk fan. I didn't really like how the whole CM Punk, the Elite Hangman Page thing went out. That's neither here nor there. I feel like Hangman's came out of that whole thing such a better competitor and such a better performer in the ring and on the microphone. And I'm so excited to see what Hangman does. And those two guys, honestly, I feel like stole the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think so. It was a match that I wasn't like particularly. As you like said, the build was a little bit lazy in a sense of, there wasn't really a lot of time. Felt like he just picked him. Like, kind of said he owed him one. I think that was the reason why he got shot, which is fair. I get that. I wasn't expecting massive amounts from the match, to be honest, but the match over delivered in my expectations. It over-delivered. As you rightfully said, Samoa Joe's probably doing his best work. A bit like Drew McIntyre. I know we're going into WWE a little bit here, but McIntyre's been doing his best work over the last couple of years, and he's been around probably as long as Samoa Joe in a way. But Samoa Joe doing his best work. Hangman Page is rightfully the champion, and he's doing some great work as well. You mentioned CM Punk there. I feel as if that worked out best for both parties in the end. Probably right that he left, or definitely right that he left the company. They didn't get a chance to perhaps make the money that they could have done from what happened there, because there's a lot of money in that. If they could have made that match happen later on down the line, if they could have got to that point, would have been millions they could have made out of that. But best of both parties. And look, both companies are thriving. AEW is thriving without Punk because they've got a lot of great guys. WWE's thriving with Punk because he seems to be enjoying himself over there, and more power to him for that. But Hangman, Adam Page, and Samoa Joe, they definitely exceeded my expectations in that match yesterday.
I know we're jumping all over the place here, but going back to Moxley and Darby, you spoke about the ending not hitting where you expected it to, or how you might have liked it. Going in the realm of fantasy booking, if you had the pen, how would you have booked the ending of that?
Well, it's crazy because when they try to kill each other, right? I mean, literally, physically tried to kill each other. If you look at what's happened over the last year, I may have had it, and this is probably going to go way extreme for it. I would have maybe not even done the I Quit. I would have maybe gone even older and done like an Inferno match. Remember the old Inferno matches in the action? I would have done something like that. Maybe have Moxley get caught on fire, because that's what Darby was trying to do all along, right? He was trying to set him on fire. That's what he was trying to do. So why not have? And I know it may have given it away a little bit if Moxley had come out wearing like a long sleeve top, because that would normally give away the fact that something's going to happen. That's, because it's different from what he normally wears. But why not have him set him on fire and then him quit and then get the fire extinguisher and put him out? But he's quit because he's on fire. And it would have made sense logically from what Darby Allin was trying to do. He would have got to that point and then Moxley would have quit. That's how potentially, I mean, again, that's going quite extreme in that sense. But when you look at what happened over the last month or longer, that's what Darby Allin's ultimate goal was. So have him do it.
I think I like where you're headed. I believe it was All In. That was their last match. Darby put Mox in the body bag and lit it on fire. I think it would have been perfect if somehow, some way, maybe Darby got him tied up or bound, and he had him in the body bag, like ready to put him on fire. And Moxley, scared to be set on fire again, says, "You know what? I quit." And then always before we get that big finish and they say, "I quit," the big finish happens anyways. Jeff put Matt through the table. It happens all the time. Then you could have Darby light the body bag on fire or something like that. Nobody actually gets hurt because the extinguishers are there. I mean, the ring's covered in water. Like, there's all these things that could make this fire go out. But, like, I was just surprised they didn't play into the fire aspect at all. Or even, I know that Darby kind of hung him up with the flag. Like Hangman did. But that's how, like, Hangman's beat Moxley twice by choking him with this chain. Why not utilize that? That's been Mox's weakness. Like, you could have used that as, hey, the only way Darby was able to win by choking the life out of Moxley and making him quit. I didn't understand the Scorpion Deathlock finish. It just didn't make sense to me, because you go through all this. Darby was absolutely destroyed most of the match. It just fell weak. And I was like, how is Darby, after going through all this pain and suffering, fighting down the Death Riders, and now it's the Scorpion Deathlock that puts Moxley out after he said he wouldn't quit? It was just confused. And he's not, like, it wasn't like an Austin finish where, like, Austin and Brett, where Austin's bleeding buckets and the visuals there. No, Moxley's, there's no blood, which is rare in a Moxley match. He's not bleeding anywhere. Like, he's just laying there in water in an inch of water, and he just quits. And it just, I don't know where the idea was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could have even put a body bag or a plastic bag over his head and put him in a death drop. At least he would have been struggling to breathe, right?
Yeah, something
like that would have been a little bit better. But maybe we'll get answers. But more so is like, because I remember people saying about they were getting quiet. Death Riders were getting quite stale. So I just wonder if now they're going to maybe go away for a bit, or whether there's going to be more this week. I don't know if anything's been announced yet for Dynamite. So I wouldn't know. I was out, so I wouldn't know if anything's been announced yet.
Where do you want to see Mox and Darby go next?
I think Mox needs a break, because he was meant to have a break. If I remember rightly, when CM Punk first got fired from AEW, Mox was meant to take a 6-week hiatus. I think he was meant to have a holiday. I think that was the plan, but he got put back in because of it. Give him a break now. He's literally had that company on his back since he debuted. He's had that company on his back. Give him a Darby. That's an interesting one, because he was on the pivot of the World Championship. That's where, and I still think Darby will end up winning that World Championship. I don't know when, but I think he will. But I don't think he goes after Hangman. I think you're right. There's some more stuff with the Ops to go. Not quite sure what happens to Darby yet. That's going to be, I suppose we may find out on Wednesday, but that's an interesting point. But I do see Darby winning that heavyweight championship at some point.
Okay. We've gone on quite the long little rant here for a little bit. I want to know, podcasting wise, when did you decide, hey, I'm going to go from being a fan to I'm going to start this podcast and start these channels and start making content? Like, what did that first vision look like for you, and how did you get started?
Funny thing was, the podcast has never been mine, which is quite a
Okay.
funny thing. So it's been my friend. So I mentioned before where it was at TNA with some of my fellow co-hosts. So my good friend Andy Burrows, now he does a lot of podcasts. He used to do this. He does Washington Commandos. Is it over here? Is that the NFL team?
Yeah, the Commanders.
Washington, yeah.
Yep.
Commanders, yeah. And he does. He'd done a soccer one over here in the UK for his local side, and we've been friends forever. Like, we met at a Stone Cold Steve Austin signing in Oxford Street in London years and years. He was signing copies of the Stone Cold Truth. That's how long ago it was. We'd been friends ever since. We support the same soccer team, so anything that ever happened, we was texting. Went to that TNA show that I mentioned with Hogan, Bischoff, Lockdown, Cage, and we'd always kept in contact. We'd always, fast forward 14 years. And I went to Clash at the Castle over here in the UK. We went to Wales to do the first big pay-per-view. And he texted me and said, where were you watching Clash at the Castle? And I responded saying, I'm actually there. And he said, I do this wrestling podcast. I wondered if you want to come on and be a guest. And I was like, you do a wrestling podcast? And you never told me? Like, what's all this about? He was doing it with someone from America. So someone got Parker from America. So they used to do it together. So I come on as a guest and loved it. I said, look, if you ever need any help, let me know. More than happy. I just loved it. Never thought I would. I'd never thought it'd be my thing, sitting in front of a camera talking to people. But I loved it. Fast forward a couple of months, he messaged me and said, look, time difference in America is like us. Time difference in America is getting difficult for me and Parker to be free on certain days to do these review shows. Do you want to come on board? And I was like, okay, yeah, definitely. So we then Raw, SmackDown, everything we were doing. And then Andy messaged me and said, do you want to interview Vince Russo? And I was like, oh, fuck, what's this? Like, what? Yes, obviously, yes. But it was just crazy. Our first interview that we actually done. I mean, he'd done some independent stuff, like some of the UK independent, and I wasn't a part of it then. But the first interview that we done was with Vince Russo. I had no envisions of what the future would hold doing this. I just come into it just helping a friend out, and nowadays it is more mine, and it will always be his. Don't get me wrong, he's the one, it's his baby. He's not around as much anymore, so I've taken the lead on it. But I don't know, I never really had any plans. It was just like, let's see what happens, and it just, like, over time it just blew up crazily. And now as we sit here, we've interviewed hundreds. So we've done 1,300 shows in 3 years, something along those lines. It's the content that's gone out. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Maybe that's a better way of looking at it. But I've loved it ever since.
Okay, so you've done it for 3 years now.
Yep, 3 years through heart failure and everything else in between. I done a podcast on my hospital bed. That's a great.
God bless you. You're doing your thing. I like it. I like the dedication. So what would you say are some, like, the biggest things you've learned from being able to do the podcast over the last 3 years?
I want to take a leaf out of my other co-host David's book, and I want to mention him because David was a friend of mine, a bit like Andy, right? So last time I saw David was WrestleMania 28. Up until this podcast started, I started doing it with Andy, my friend David, who, like, same type of thing, right? We got it. We were still always in contact. We always message each other. David at the time was not being able to work due to basically breaking his back. He had vertebrae and everything had gone. So he was out. He was not being able to do what he does for a living. Thankfully, now he can. And we met him, and he said the one thing that he said to me was, I've always wanted to podcast, but I felt as if A, they wouldn't take me seriously, or B, they would make fun of his accent. So he's from Birmingham in the UK, the West Midlands. So there's a bit of a different accent to what you'd get from me. And I said to him, the first best bit of advice that I've even got told from Andy was like, don't give a shit what anybody thinks of you. If you want to do something, do it, and you'll be fine. And that's exactly what I said to David. And like, so that's really what I've learned. Like don't you can make an ass of yourself. That, you know, do whatever you want to do. It's your show. Don't be dictated by anybody. But if you're gonna do it and you're gonna say you're gonna do it, do it. Don't just sit at home thinking, oh, I'd love to do it, but like David did for years, love to do it, but didn't have the confidence, worried about an accent. Nowadays, he takes the mick out of me trying to pronounce the Japanese names in AEW. So he's gone from not being able to wanting to do it to taking the mick out of me for trying to pronounce Takeshita or something like that. So yeah,
I love the BU aspect, because like it's something I tell Nasty Nate all the time. Like he's 15 years old, so all 15-year-olds they are presenting themselves for everybody else. 15, we didn't know how to be us yet, because we didn't know who we were yet. I'm gonna assume most 15-year-olds don't. Okay. So like I always just tell them to just be yourself, and like especially for one. There's going to be doing a podcast, doing anything, putting yourself out there online. There's going to be detractors and people that are going to come on there and make fun of you for something, or they're going to have something to say. It's inevitable. Yeah. I think the spark happens when you don't care, when you be yourself and you have fun. And it's like, I've gone on podcast as a grown man and said, I watched John Cena lose the Royal Rumble and shed a tear. It happens. Undertaker lost the streak. I cried. Then I was, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, something like that. Like it made sense. I was a kid then, so it made sense, but like I've cried. It happened. Punk came back and won the AEW title. I cried. It happens. These things get us emotional. And I think it's just what makes the content so much more enjoyable, is just being able to be yourself and have people connect to you. Is that something?
I agree with that. Listen, I shed a tear when Edge.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go.
I was just going to say that's something you've been able to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the same thing with Edge when he come back from retirement. WWE Royal Rumble. When that Metalingus hit, I didn't know. So bigger events like that, I stay off social media. I don't go on it, even to this day with the pop. I blackout. Don't touch it. And when his music hit, I've got the Rated R spinner belt. He's signed it. You know, I've got all of that stuff. So I've got it's the Brood on my. You can't really see it, but it's the Brood on my arm. I've got the Rated R star on my back to give you an idea. When that music hit at the Royal Rumble, I didn't shed a tear, but it was there. That emotion, that like it hit you, right? Yeah. So, and I don't care what people. I couldn't care less what people think about me on the show. I really don't, because I'm just being me and I'm just offering an opinion on something. I do things a certain way. I do try and make a bit of a laugh and joke about things when we're on a show, because that's me. That's my personality coming through. But I just don't care. But yeah, the emotions. I tell you another one when I got emotional quickly. When I mentioned heart failure earlier on, that was at the week before All In One over here in the UK, a couple of years back. I didn't make it to All In One because I got released. I got released from the hospital, and I couldn't make it back to London because there was a train strike. So I could have, although I could have got there, it was impossible. I couldn't have got there because of that. The very next year, All In, so last year, made it, and so exactly the same seats, and it come flooding, like as in I didn't, because I wasn't there the first time, the emotion of everything that had happened that year as well, like nearly dying, literally being told by the doctor you were 2 days away from death, that then getting to All In 2, finally being there, although it was my first one, I watched All In 1 begrudgingly from my laptop. But being there live like I should have been in the second year, meeting all of my independent wrestling friends at Box Park in Wembley, that's where it got me, and that's the emotion. But I don't care about what people say or anything like that. That it does get you, because what wrestling does, if you watch wrestling over a period of time, you may not know them personally, but you know the character. And it's like when a character gets killed off of your TV program that you're watching, you're telling me that people don't sit back and get upset at home when they're watching their soap operas. The difference is when a character gets killed off the wrestling company, it's because he's dead. That
He's
person
actually
is
gone.
yeah, it's not a storyline. That guy's gone. So when they're doing that 10 bell salute at the start of a Raw or an Aid or a Dynamite or whatever, it's because they're actually no longer, not just a character, but the physical person playing that character is no longer there. So you have every right to get emotional at that point, definitely. And times like with the Punk stuff, absolutely, you absolutely should. There's nothing wrong with it.
You bring up passings, and like I don't know if you've had this happen, but when I first started the podcast, not too far afterwards, I got lucky. I got Sabu on. One of the few last Sabu interviews out there. Feel free to go check it out. Great interview.
Definitely.
And I don't know if I really cherished the interview as much until he passed, because there was a lot going on in the interview. He didn't seem like he was all the way into it, if that makes sense. Sabu was he partaked in his extracurricular activities, and he was definitely doing so during said podcast. And so, like, I just don't feel like he was having as much fun as I was. It happened on very short notice, very late at night.
Yeah.
And when I heard he passed, I didn't know how to react. Like, cause it's like, oh, this is different now. Cause I've watched this guy on TV. I grew up watching him. I've had action figures of him, and I've had a conversation with him, and he's gone. Have you been through anything like that yet?
No. We've had a couple of close ones with Jake the Snake, and Buff Bag. Well, obviously, Buff had his leg amputated, and Jake obviously nearly died a few times. The one personally, and it just because it literally happened 2 days after everything happened with me, it is Bray Wyatt. Because he died of exactly the same thing I had. He died. I didn't.
Yeah.
2 days apart. I literally got in hospital. I had all my tests. I got all the medication, everything like that I still take to this day, and I survived. And my son, hopefully, I don't know, you'd have to ask him, but hopefully he's glad that I did. Bray didn't have that luxury. So I think in that sense, like, because of that, although we never had the privilege of having him on the podcast, but just because of how personal it is to me, that hit me more hard than anyone's, because I was in hospital suffering the same stuff that he did. I was just fortunate enough to come out the other side of it.
Yeah. Have you've obviously had guests on the podcast. Who's been a guest that you've had on that maybe you had an expectation for that completely subverted expectation, whether that was positive or negative?
It was the same. Well, funny enough, it was Eric Bischoff, because we got Eric Bischoff because of Fiona.
Okay.
Basically, to tell you that story quickly, Eric Bischoff was doing an Inside the Ropes tour with Fiona. Like, so she was part of the team. So she was talking to Eric, and she was like, "Oh, my podcast friends are coming." He was like, "Well, what do you podcast on?" She said, "Wrestling." They do everything, and me and Adam do NWA, and Adam does everything else. So he said, so what I didn't know at the time was he said, "Well, I'll come on the podcast." But what Fiona said was, "You can tell him when he comes and meets you, because he's got the VIP package. He's going to meet you beforehand. I'll tell you who he is." Blah, blah. Walked up to him, had a great conversation with him. And then as I'm walking away, I was like, "Really nice to meet you, Eric. Looking forward to the show tonight." He went, "Oh, by the way, I'm coming on your show." I was just, what? Wait, what? So it was like, oh my God. I expected it to be great anyway, because it's Eric Bischoff and everything like that. But it was just amazing. Like, surreal, maybe. Like, it exceeded expectations in so many ways. But it was just crazy. Like, to sit like I am with you right now, but to have Eric Bischoff at the other side, someone that masterminded so much stuff with wrestling. It was I enjoyed it so much. Look, he's been on twice since. So I can only assume that he had a bit of fun. I know Fiona's played a big part of that, but in terms of like expectations and exceeding them, he just blew it out of the water for me.
I've met Eric once. I went to a convention. Rhino has a promotion in Monroe, Michigan, and he had his first convention up there, and Eric was there, and I got to talk to Eric for like 10 minutes just at the convention. Great guy.
Yeah.
And I think he's somebody that has, like, he's one of those guys online that has a very negative connotation to his name. Yes. Like, there's people have their opinion of Eric, but if you get to just talk to Eric as a person, human to human, it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
If I had to go and I guess answer my own question, EC3 is the first person that comes to mind for that same reason. Everybody online has an opinion of EC3, and
Yeah.
most of them aren't the best. Most people they don't like EC3.
Yeah.
And so going in, it was right after, I don't want to say right after the WWE exit. I think he was NWA champion when I talked to him. He was, NWA and OVW champion at the same time. And I just, going in, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I know he has an opinion of himself. I don't want to undermine that and piss him off.
Yeah.
EC3 might have been the most like down to earth human being I've had on, whether it's before the podcast, during, or after, and to just be able to listen to him and soak in all the knowledge. I was not expecting it at all. Like, I was expecting him to come in and be an ass, and he was a great human being.
Really was. Yeah, we've had him on, and he's just one guy that I just sit there and just listen to everything that guy. I mean, I do it all of them, but there's some. Shane Douglas was another that I just, because Shane Douglas just takes you back there. If you could just close your eyes, listen to him, you're back in the wherever you're talking about, you're back there. And EC3 is the same, and yeah, he was another one that just he blew us away when we was on. Looking forward to getting him back on actually and talking some Exodus Pro very, very soon.
Definitely. I've been waiting on the same thing. I'm just waiting on the right response from the right guys, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But before we got on here, I kind of told you some guests. When I started this, I had a small list of guys that I'd like to get on. Do you have a dream guest list that you would like to start checking off?
Yeah, I mean, I've managed. I've been fortunate. I've checked some of them off. Darwin Dallas Page was one. I checked him off. Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, Jake the Snake, Buff Bagwell. I had them on my list. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking as just unrealistic as possible, then I would take the Undertaker right now and just sit and listen. Paul Heyman. I'd love to talk. Someone that we're not going to have the opportunity to, because he's no longer with us, but I'd love to talk to Bobby the Brain Heenan about stuff. I think that would have been incredible. But Kevin Nash would be another one. I'd love to talk to Kevin Nash about stuff. I know that he does his own podcast. It's really, really good. You've already spoken to him, the Hardys. There you go. There's one that you've had the privilege of, and I'm hoping one day, before they retire, I get the Hardys and have a chat, even if it's just a 15-minute conversation. I love it. Cena, because I've got some funny stories of Cena, not necessarily with him, but I've got some funny stories about when I met him. You probably won't remember him, but it's still a funny thing. Punk, and obviously Punk, but not to have a controversial chat with Punk, if that makes sense. To have like a chat that we're, that sort of not bringing up the crap from AEW or anything like that. Just have a chat with Punk. That's technically Triple H, because he was one of my heroes growing up. Oh, Edge. I can't have one without Edge.
So, do you when we get to see these interviews of guys, like let's say for Punk, for instance, anytime they get Punk on, I'll throw Ariel Helwani out there as an example. Like, he gets on Ariel Helwani, and it's immediately turned into a very controversial episode because of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you think it'd be nice to be able to have these guys go on a podcast like that and have a conversation like we are without having all the controversy brought up?
I would love it. And that's what we try and do. Same, that I try to steer away from that stuff. And I think that's the kind of other things that gets people like wrestlers don't want to do them. Because they kind of think, well, they're going to bring up this. And I don't want them to do it. Even if we say we're not going to do it, there may be that trust element there. I would love to just have a conversation with Punk about Ring of Honor and about all the time and about building up towards a WWE, and not the exit, because we've seen it, we've heard it all before. I don't want to know about the stuff with Colt Cabana. I don't care. It's been and done. I don't want to hear stuff about Tony Khan. I want to get his perception on, or maybe like his feelings at the time of stepping out on that episode of Rampage for the first time. Like, take all the controversy away. You're backstage after coming onto your first wrestling show in nearly a decade, and I want to know what he's feeling. I don't care about the crap behind it. I want to know what he's feeling at that moment. But just have a general conversation with him. That's all we try and do. And I'm sure that you're the same. We don't, the controversy bit, sometimes they bring it up. Austin Larry's brung it up with me when I was on the podcast. He was brung out. I said, we're not going to talk about stuff. And he went, and he even said, I know you said beforehand that we're not going to talk about it, but, well, and he went into it. But I try and do my best to say to everyone at the start, I'm not interested in any of that. I'm more interested in making it fun and you know, a bit more, I don't say different, but just have that general conversation rather than just go straight into the negative and the controversy, because people are going to click it because they're going to want to hear it. I don't care if 2 people or 2 million people watch my show. I don't care, because selfishly, it's for me, not for anybody else.
Exactly. Well, it's funny how that works, because like me and you had the conversation before we got on here. Is there anything you don't want to talk about?
Mhm.
I do that with everybody I get on here. And
Yeah.
I don't mind when a guest gets on here, and if they want to let something out,
Mhm.
I gave them a platform. They can say what they want. It's
Yeah.
like it's on them how they want it. I always tell the guys and the girls, get on here and paint the picture how you want to be portrayed.
Yeah.
If you want to open that door, open that door. Sometimes I've realized, me personally, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's almost like, where do we go now? Like, you brought this up. I don't know how to get us back on track, because we've went so far in left field that it's like, where do we go from here? How do you as a podcaster backtrack and get everything back on the roll?
I just probably say something stupid or trying to be funny about something and go, right, now we're moving on. I would say something like, right, we're swiftly moving on or quickly moving on about it.
Getting away from that.
Yeah. You said you think great, perfect, right, now we're going to get back to saying what we want. Or I might do something stupid and play a silly game with them, like, I don't know, word association or something random, just to kill that bit and then go into what I want to talk about. I know what you mean, though. It's like, it is a difficult thing to do when, like, all of a sudden they start. I mean, I've not had that massively. I said Austin Aries kind of went on that track, and I'm just bringing it back to what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, generally a silly game or a silly remark, or let's move swiftly on to what we were going to talk about.
Well, me and you spoke about, like, before we got on here, I had Jimmy Jacobs on, and he talked about the Briscoes.
Yeah.
And I agree with everything Jimmy said on the podcast about the Briscoes.
Mm-hmm.
Mark and Jay have a crazy body of work. Those guys for decades have put on master classes in the ring, and they've earned their flowers.
Yes.
And Jimmy obviously is very close friends with Jay and Mark, and he goes on to just let people know, hey, it's crazy how cancel culture works, and to get canceled over whatever that you said 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And for everybody to, after somebody passes away, be like, well, I don't know why he wasn't allowed on TBS. Like, that's crazy. Like, why. You're the reason he wasn't allowed on TBS.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the online perspective of individuals should be what determines whether they make it in this business or not? Or should it be off the merit of their skills and what they do with and around the ring?
I would certainly say more to do with the second option, but again, I suppose it kind of
depends.
Yeah, for me, I don't think Brock Lesnar should be on WWE television right now. That's my thing.
That's fair.
But in his defense, I would say he's guilty by association in a lot of senses. He's not necessarily, but I would say that I wouldn't have brought him back until everything's been sorted out. And if his name was fair. I feel as if that's the thing. Obviously, we're not going to see Vince McMahon again. That's the thing. And we spoke about Benoit before as well, and we'll bring him up because wrestling, I don't think there's anyone better than him. Kurt Angle and Benoit, probably the 2 best wrestlers that have ever listen
inside the ring.
Yeah, but you look at it, right? Steve Austin beat up his ex-wife. Still will come back. No one talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Darby Allin was put in speaking out. Nobody talks about it.
Matt Riddle.
No, he's doing his own well.
He's doing much different things now, but for what he was spoke out against, WWE defended him.
Exactly. So you got to look at it. I think sometimes it's more the person or the individual. I mean, listen, Chris Benoit, we're not going to say anything that we're not going to defend.
We can't defend what he did, but
you can have your conspiracy theories. You can have anything else. You can't defend what he's gone and whatever what he's gone and done, right? But what you can also can't defend, or what you can't argue, was that when that bell went off in that ring, there wasn't many people better than him at what he does. That's
Exactly.
how I suppose to a degree I would say that wrestlers should always be, it's always should be what the work they've done in the ring first. But I do think it depends on what's happened. Like with the Chris Benoit thing, I totally understand why why he's kind of been erased from everything. I know it seems a shame, but you can't do that outside and then kind of coming back to the world of wrestling a bit. But I do sometimes think it's double standards.
So like one that I always like to throw out there, and when I first started the podcast, one guy that was on my list that I wanted to talk to because I was such a fan of them, especially in Bullet Club, was Marty Scurll.
Yes.
Marty had his allegations during speaking out. Marty's even come forth and said, look, some facts are true. The underlying things are this. I apologize. And like Marty, I think was one of the few during that took accountability for actions and said, how can I make it better with you guys? How can I apologize and come back and still leave a good impression on this business?
Yeah.
And like for me, it was really important for me to seek Marty and get Marty on and have him on a podcast where we don't talk about controversies or BS. And I had him on for almost 2 hours. We did just that. I learned facts about AEW that I never knew, like the original name, what they were planning to bring in Goldberg, things like that. No, like I've never heard anybody speak of these things, but Marty was there, and we've never got to hear Marty's side.
Yeah.
So like being able to see somebody like a Marty Scurll makes sense. Marty took his like he said what he did. Technically, what he did isn't illegal. It's morally maybe wrong. Okay. Illegal, no. So like but you know, Brock did something that is also morally wrong, not necessarily illegal, and you let him back open arms. And like, don't get me wrong, there was a while when WWE was a little stale, and you could see the seeds being planted for Brock to come back. And I was like, at this point, just do it already. Like, rip the Band-Aid off. We're all going to be pissed off. Will I enjoy watching Brock Lesnar beat people up? Yes, I'm a wrestling fan. Like, I'm going to enjoy watching Brock wrestle. That doesn't mean I have to like Brock Lesnar as a human being. So, like, I guess what I'm going off on this tangent for is, like, I think it'd be cool to be able to see guys like Marty who's, you know, acknowledge what they've did and tried to go past it and giving them a chance, rather than guys like Brock who haven't even spoken a word about it, given multiple chances. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, fully. I agree. And I'd love to talk to Marty as well. I just kind of been a bit reluctant to reach out to him because I feel because I think he would, again, perception, right? You had him on and you've done a whole thing about it, not talking about it. Again, I wouldn't want to reach out to him and then him have an idea that I want to come and talk about all that stuff. The idea is it's about something totally different. I want to talk wrestling with people. Yeah, you're right. Marty didn't really do anything wrong. It was morally wrong. Absolutely morally wrong. Brock Lesnar, you're right. Morally wasn't illegal. And he was, and to be fair to him, he was kind of lured into that. It was Vince. It wasn't him reaching out. It was Vince going, "Hey, what do you think of this girl? Oh, yeah, she's nice." Boom, and then that whole,
and then you know, dominoes.
Yeah, apples for apples, and then next thing you know, it's going off. But yeah, I think sometimes and I don't mean this to be controversial, but if it was the other way around, and it was the females doing this, would there be such an outrage?
That's a good question.
I don't mean that in any I'm not being.
It's a good perspective to bring out, though. Like if it was, if the script was flipped, would we be having the same conversation?
Would there be such a big public outcry, or would it be you're a man up?
I also like to throw out there just, you know, as an audience, do we ever think, okay, what if we were in their shoes? What if we made a mistake? Would we want a second chance?
Of course.
And I don't know, like sometimes online people are just like ready with their pitchforks and torches, ready to storm you out of the village. Like, is that always necessary? Can we have a conversation? Can we talk about this? Can I get a second chance? Or is it not worth it? And I think with some guys, there's value in them still. It's just, I mean, you got to it's one of those, you got to take a very big negative and try to figure out how to turn it into a positive, but it's possible.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of getting there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we've all done things we're not proud of, I'm sure, in our lifetime. And given that opportunity, I'm sure we'd like that second chance. But yeah, absolutely. Look, it's just a crazy world, right? As you rightfully say, one rumor, and that rumor could be pure fabrication about anybody. It gets leaked out online, and you're guilty before you even had a chance to respond to it. And that's where I think online needs to do better. It's actually get to the fact, get it out there, whatever the correct facts. So you may not necessarily hear the full facts of everything, but at least wait until that person or a bit more has come out about it before you make that assumption that Z person is guilty because this person over here has gone out online and said they've done this thing. Sometimes there's more to life than there's more. I tell you what though, as a quick one, the Masha Slamovich allegations, how quick have they died down?
I haven't heard anything since the initial reports.
That's my point about being
exactly
if it was the other way, if it was forgive me, I can't remember the wrestler's name, the other guy's name.
Marty Scurll.
No. The Slamovich's ex partner.
Akira. Akira he's in MLW and wrestles in Japan a lot.
Yeah. But if it had been Masha coming out and saying Akira did this, we'd still be talking about it now. In my opinion. And he'd be cancelled.
We'd probably know the whole court situation, what it looks like. All the reports would be leaked.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And like, I think another good example is like you look at Enzo Amore. Enzo got fired for an allegation. It was like 24 hours gone. Yep. But within that same 24 hours, everything's disproven. Like everything's like none of it's true. But he's still fired. He's never been brought back. Like, granted, did he maybe handle it afterwards? Right? No. But I mean, I'd be upset too. I was just on top of the world. Like I was just on Raw about to, be in all these segments with all these legends. And next thing you know, I'm taken off TV because somebody said something that's completely false. And now I'm gone. And it's like, I get it. And it's like, I think as reporters, that's why I never claim, like I'm a podcaster. I interview wrestlers. I never claim to be a reporter. I didn't go to journalism school. I think the wrestling journalists and journalists in general need to be more careful about what they put out there because, I mean, Twitter only reads the headlines 9 times out of 10. Like the headline reads whatever. That's what the people are sticking to. That's what they're sharing. That's what gets out there. I think as people, we need to be more responsible with what we're sharing into this world. And because it has a direct impact on lives altogether.
Yeah. It does. And Enzo Amore was a great one, by the way. That's it. I would say he may not have been fired if he wasn't walking the tightrope already.
Yes.
Because of other stuff. But you're right. He was fired within seconds. Literally, it come out, and then I think maybe about a couple of hours later, it'd been released, and then it all turned out to be lies.
I got a couple more questions for you, and then I'm gonna let you go. Earlier,
that's fine.
We talked about Wembley.
Yes,
you being there. The UK hadn't had a big show for years. I'm not sure how many years, but it's been years. What was it like for you? I know you wasn't able to be at the first one, but what was it like for you as an adult to be at the second one? Something you've waited years for. Like, how were you feeling in that moment at that show in that arena?
I'm going to strip away the other stuff that I already mentioned about before. So I'm going to strip away my emotions about stuff. But I remember going to Wembley Stadium to watch SummerSlam 92. So that was the last big stadium show. They've had the O2. SummerSlam 92 was the one. That was the last one we ever had, basically, until all in one. So I literally was like me being a 6 to 8 year old kid or whatever I was then. I was just as excited of going there, walking into Wembley. And I've been fortunate. I've been to 5 WrestleManias. I've done 5 WrestleManias in my lifetime, all 25, 21, 25, 26, 27, and 28. And I done exactly the same when I went to WrestleMania that I did at All In too, which was I literally got there got to my seat, and I just literally closed my eyes and just looked and done like a circle of the building, and just took in that anticipate, because you get there and you're a little bit just before the pre-show starts, everyone's filing and you can feel that energy, and it's coming in you, but it's also coming in from everyone in the building. And I do it twice. I do it when I get to my seat, and I do it as the show starts. And I just literally close my eyes and just take it all in. And that's when but I was like a kid in the candy store. And I'd never, like I said, SummerSlam 92 was the last big one. We'd had Money in the Bank and things like that, obviously, but never a big stadium show. So that one, it was just an incredible, it was just amazing. It just felt like it'd been too long since. I know there was rumors that they were going to do the 30th year of the anniversary of the 30th year of SummerSlam. They were going to do it. Side note, Tony Khan's dad owns a percentage of Wembley Stadium, so that may
pinpoint. It may not ever happen.
It may not ever happen, right? But but there we go. But long story short, I take it all in. I was excited as anything. It just took me back to when I was a kid watching SummerSlam 92.
What is your favorite Mania you've been to, and what's your favorite Mania overall?
17 or 18 was my favorite one. That's when they had Taker, Triple H doing that big. They went everywhere. I can't remember.
18. No, is it? We got the world in our hands, as Van Vliet says.
Hold on, I'll find out.
It's 17. I want to say it's WrestleMania 17.
17. You're right. WrestleMania 17 was my favorite.
Okay. Rock and Hogan.
Rock Hogan. There you go. Two icons.
There we go. Okay.
That was my favorite. Favorite Mania. Jeez. It wasn't the best, but 28 probably was the last one I went to. 28. I think it's just because I look at my childhood, like it was Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels referee, Hell in a Cell, end of the era, and it really was. It felt like if the streak was going to end, it was going to end there, maybe 2 years before he actually did, to the wrong man, unfortunately. But then again, it probably wouldn't have been the right man if Triple H had won it anyway. But it would have made more sense. End of an era. But that was it. Rock Cena won. Was there the once in a lifetime they'd done twice in 2 years. But that was that. It was just all of that. 21 would be great because it was my first Mania I ever went to. But 28 was just, it just had everything for me.
Who do you think deserves to be on the UK's Mount Rushmore? That's 4 guys.
4 UK wrestlers. Ooh. British Bulldog has got to be up there.
100%.
Million. There's no one. I think he deserves it on his own. Dynamite Kid.
Okay.
He's definitely on there.
Real quick side note, since you bring up Dynamite Kid, do you think, obviously Dynamite's never done anything to the extent of a Chris Benoit.
No.
Do you think Dynamite deserves more recognition than he gets, even though what he does outside the ring might necessarily be morally wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. He does deserve it. Yeah. Again, you can't, as you said, there's different things that you do, right? And, we took the Benoit thing. We're like, look, you don't do that.
That's wrong. That's bad.
There's morally, and then there's murder, right?
That's just, we can't. Yeah, you broke the scale, Benoit. I don't know what to do.
Exactly, right? So, yeah, he does. I'm going to add William Regal onto that list.
I love it.
William Regal. He's one of the most underrated wrestlers and he got given some shit, didn't he? Like the Real Man's Man in WCW.
The Real Man's Man was terrible.
In WWE, Jericho take a piss in his cup of tea, but it was the facial expression as to what he brought out afterwards. But William Regal
kissing Vince's ass.
He had to do some bad stuff. Now he's the War Games man, right? He just comes out. War Games. That's it. Him and me would have a great time on a podcast just trying to pronounce wrestlers' names.
I'd love it. I'd watch it.
He says Umanga when it was Umaga, right? And
I loved it as a kid though, because it was so different. Like, I think another side note. We're getting off on a side note. But cool. Regal's accent for me, as a kid, just for context, I grew up in middle of nowhere, West Virginia. There's mountains and rednecks, and we live in it's just, I live in a trailer. Like, it's what you'd expect when you picture West Virginia. That's how I lived. So I didn't hear a lot of people with your accent or with a similar accent to you other than on TV. So like William Regal was one of those guys. For some reason, I hated him as a kid. Like it's just like I don't like this guy. But when he talked or said umanga, I was like, what is he saying? It just gravitated me because it was just so different.
I got it even better. It should be me, William Regal, and Santina Marella.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I love it. I love it. Sign me up. I'm watching.
And then the last one, Dave Finley.
Okay.
Brilliant. Is again growing up as a kid. He was a creator. Again, someone that probably doesn't get enough. He does. If you talk to a lot of the old WWE divas,
yes,
the amount of divas that will sit there and say that guy had done so much, and he was constantly fighting for them to get the correct time that they deserve. So these 90-second skits that they got back in until the women's revolution, which actually started in TNA. But we won't go there. But
another podcast.
That's right. Dave Finley has to be on that list.
I think with Finley, it was always one of those things. I feel like he fought more for other people than he did himself.
Probably.
I think Finley could have been WWE champion. He could have been the first WWE champion from the UK that we was talking about if he didn't fight so hard for everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a testament to the kind of human being that Fit Finley is.
Yep. Definitely.
And he deserves to be. He's still there to this day, doing his as an agent. Like he deserves all the flowers that man can get. I'm glad you put him on there because I don't think I've had anybody put him on this list yet.
There we go. William Regal, Dave Finley for the Hall of Fame. Everybody, definitely.
It could happen. It could happen sooner rather than later. Adam, I just want to say thank you first and foremost. This was a great time. I could chat with you all day. Yeah. I'm sure we keep going. I'm gonna leave this at I'm gonna leave the door open. You ever want to come back on, or if you want to have me on your show, DMs are open. I'd love to come on. Just let me know.
We do a show called the Top 10. I would love to have you on that. I pick a subject. I give you like a week or two. You come up with a top 10. And we come on and do that. That'd be really. I'd love to get you on for that.
Okay, yeah. Just let me know. We'll talk about it. Before we go, you want to shout out your social medias and stuff like that one more time, just in case for some reason they weren't paying attention at the beginning.
Yeah, probably would have turned off by now. But anyway, with my voice. But no, HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast on all other social medias. And lastly, Ignite Rest Pro on social media. That is a promotion in the UK that we work with. We've got our own championship there at Ignite. We've also done free joint produced shows or co-produced shows with them. If you're in the UK and you're watching this, go and check out Ignite. November the 23rd is the next show. It's the curtain call for our championship will be defended in a triple threat match. To get your tickets, go to event 96 Eventbrite, type in Ignite Rest Pro, you'll see it, and we hope to see you there. And thank you for an amazing show. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like we've only scratched the surface so far.
I agree. There was so much like doing these. I always have like a million ideas of what to talk about, especially with podcasters. Like you could go down any rabbit hole. I feel like we went down a couple. And I'm so glad. I feel like this is just the start of many more episodes to come. Can't wait. I'm going to leave this at see you next time, Adam.
See you next time, my friend. Thank you.